Hello and welcome to the Integrated Rehab and Performance podcast. My name is Dr. Nick Curtis and I'm running the show here at the Integrated Rehab and Performance Center in Brentwood, Tennessee. We have another golf episode for today. We are talking about what mobility is needed for the backswing in golfers. So specifically the backswing here today. What do we need to achieve that position? Again, we need a lot from just about everything, but we're going to focus on some key parts in the backswing. We're going to show you what that looks like to actually move these parts, and then how we can kind of go about addressing some of these key three. We're going to pick kind of the top three regions in that backswing to address, and then how we can increase mobility in these regions if we need it, and then precise control and motor control over that new mobility in these regions, right? So we have to be able to achieve these positions, and we have to be able to achieve them efficiently and with strength, stability to create power from there and be comfortable there so we can repeat it and have an efficient, repeatable swing. That's the key. So again, let's look at the backswing and everything we need to get there. So to rattle some things off, what do we need in the backswing? Well, the most common areas missing in mobility in the golfer for backswing is the backside hip and the shoulder. The backside hip needs internal rotation. That backside shoulder needs external rotation. I'll show you what those look like in a second. Again, that hip internal rotation is really important for that backswing. We also tend to be missing the leading side shoulder internal rotation. That's that leading side shoulder. And just trunk, thoracic spine rotation, right? That T-spine rotation tends to be a big limiter. Overall, a list of things we need. Backside hip needs to be able to internally rotate. Backside shoulder needs to be able to externally rotate. Pelvis needs to be able to rotate towards the backside. Front side hip needs to be able to externally rotate. Front side shoulder needs to be able to internally rotate. Thorax obviously needs to be able to rotate towards that backside, and it needs to be able to bend away from that side. The spine needs to be able to extend. The backside wrist needs to be able to extend, and the front side wrist needs to be able to flex. Cervical spine needs to be able to stay neutral, which with the body rotating underneath it is effectively rotating away from the backside, so rotating towards the front side. So if I'm a righty and my body's rotating towards the right, but my neck is staying neutral, I'm kind of doing left cervical rotation. That's a list of things. Let's see a video of me kind of demonstrating. You can see what is external or internal rotation of the hip or shoulder. What is that actually? What does that look like? Watch this video. It'll go over the backswing and the downswing. Again, focusing here on the backswing.
Okay, so what do we need from the body in the backswing and the downswing? Well, from the joints, we need a lot. Just about every joint is involved in some way, but we're gonna go over the key joints here. So first thing, with the backswing, we need from this backside hip, whether you're lefty or righty, this backside hip, what we need to be able to do is internally rotate this hip. What you can imagine is happening there is that this pelvis is moving on a stable hip, tibia, and foot, right? So if this is staying straight, what's happening is this pelvis is moving inward on top of this. You can imagine this thigh is moving inward or rotating inward. Now, if the pelvis is stable and I do this, this is internal rotation of the hip. Same thing, if I stabilize this and I move the hip or the pelvis on the hip, same thing's happening at that joint. It doesn't know the difference. That's hip internal rotation. We're also getting pelvis right rotation, right, to internally rotate that hip. We're getting thorax right rotation. We're also getting some extension here at that mid-back, especially that thoracic spine, where we need to be able to extend it a little bit. We're getting a little bit of trunk flexion here from our starting position and then our backswing there. And then same thing here with the arms. We're having thorax right rotation as well as lead side arm internal rotation. So we need this arm to be able to come across our body and internally rotate. When it comes to this backside arm, very important, is we need this backside arm to be able to externally rotate. So if we imagine this position here, we need the arm to be able to do that. Okay, so what that looks like here is this position. Again, especially if we're trying to keep that elbow in and tucked in for our swing plane mechanics there, it is vital that we have good external rotation of this backside arm. Otherwise, we can't quite get there. We get this elbow popping up, flying out, and that leads to all sorts of swing characteristics that we don't necessarily want, right? So all of these things need to work together to get us into that top of that backswing position comfortably, that we can do it repetitively. We don't have to think so hard to do it. And then we can work on other things like our timing and certain swing characteristics that are popping up. We can work on those without having mobility be an issue. So again, right hip or backside hip internal rotation. We need external rotation of this front side hip. So what's happening there, again, stable foot and hip. Pelvis is rotating this way. You can think this hip's almost like it's rotating out like this. But instead, this is staying where it is, and this pelvis is moving on top of it. That hip doesn't know the difference. All it knows is that it's opening up like that. Okay, so again, front side, lead side, shoulder, internal rotation, external rotation of the hip, back side, shoulder. That's what this is, external rotation here, but internal rotation of this inside hip. This internal rotation tends to be an issue for a lot of golfers, and then this backside external rotation tends to be an issue as well. That's the main things we need from the backswing. Again, trunk rotation, pelvis rotation to the right, external rotation, hip internal rotation. External rotation here, internal rotation here. When we come into the downswing, what this looks like here through impact is as we're shifting our weight forward, we need this side to have internal rotation now. Again, before we needed external rotation. Now with a stable leg, we need this pelvis to be able to come through and rotate, creating internal rotation here at this hip joint. Hip doesn't know the difference. All it knows is that it needs to be good, strong, and mobile enough to do left side, in this case, internal rotation. If we can't do that, all sorts of things start to happen where we try to avoid that internal rotation. Maybe we extend out, we push out like this. Any host of things can happen. If our body doesn't like being comfortable here, we can't get that hip back. We don't have enough internal rotation here, or if it's painful, right? Opposite here, we need external rotation. We need this foot to stay stable. We need this glute to be able to create external rotation to rotate this pelvis on this stable leg, creating external rotation here. Thorax trunk, obviously now we're doing, in this case, left rotation or lead side rotation. Pelvis is rotating towards that lead side. And then we have through here, backside shoulder, internal rotation, front side shoulder, external rotation, right? External rotation through here. If we're lacking any of this, again, who knows what could happen to that club face if we don't have adequate right shoulder or back shoulder internal rotation or external rotation through here. What's it doing to our follow through? Okay, so lots of things important. Mobility, very important for the golf swing. Just about every joint is involved somehow. These are some of the key players and what their mobility requirements are for the backswing as well as the downswing.
Great, so we have a comprehensive understanding of what is needed from the joints. Maybe not so interesting to you guys, very interesting to me. How do we assess for mobility at all of these different joints, right? It's a lot. First of all, here at Integrated Rehab and Performance Center, we use a TPI screen, which is a golf-specific motor control and movement screen that kind of touches on all of these joints. After that, we need to dive deeper, so we always go into a deeper joint-by-joint analysis of pure mobility and stability at certain joints as well to really uncover what is going on at each joint that is affecting our golf swing, right? Where is the root cause? Where's that root problem that's causing all those compensations, giving you issues on the course? We will know exactly what to do after that to fix that problem. Go ahead and reach out to me if you want to learn more about getting that exam done and starting some treatment plans and some performance plans. Otherwise, besides that TPI screen and the more specific biomechanics and joint analysis, we need to understand what can we do to improve mobility, stability, or the mechanics at these joints. Well, let's pick the top three. The backside hip internal rotation, the backside shoulder external rotation, and the thoracic spine rotation. So let's talk first about that hip internal rotation on the backside. This is vital for allowing the pelvis to rotate towards that backside. All right, and it allows us to create that separation, that kinematic sequence that we've talked about that's so important. If we don't have that, again, we leave ourselves open to a host of compensations and issues, timing issues even. When we don't have that kinematic sequence, our ability to create power is diminished, and our ability to have an efficient and reproducible swing goes down, right? We need to be able to have that hip internally rotate on the backside, or we leave ourselves open to pain, both in the fact that we're going to be struggling with our golf game, but also true physical pain as well, because then we have to compensate to get into that position. When those hips get locked up early, that low back, we're asking a lot more from it. So the low back's kind of number one on our list, but we can also look at the knee, what's happening at the ankle. Those are put under way more stress when we are lacking that hip internal rotation on that backside. So what can we do to fix it? Let's go over a couple things here. First is going to be a true kind of mobility. We're using the body to help open up some space in that right hip. We're getting into and out of internal rotation, and then we're going to do a more active version of it where we're going to be using that internal rotation, but we're going to be kind of pulling ourselves into it. We're going to put ourselves into a position of internal rotation and then kind of do a little bit of work from there. So 2 drills coming your way. Let's take a look.
Okay, this is the side lying knee roll at 90 degrees. What we need here is something to pin our knee up against the wall with, and then something to help keep our head in a neutral position. So it can be a small pillow, something like a yoga block, or even a couple of pillows rolled up. From this position here, what we're doing is we have our bottom hip at 90 degrees. We have our top side leg straight,
And it's going to be important throughout this drill to try to emphasize this top side hip going down towards the wall, towards our foot. So not having it hiked up like this, but instead actively trying to push our foot down away from us, which pulls this hip down with it. Try to keep that there the whole time. It'd be important to remember to re-cue yourself to keep this kind of extended long leg. Now from here, we're focusing on this bottom side hip, where we're simply just rolling forward, not letting our low back start to extend to get any extra range of motion. We want it to all come from this bottom side hip. So let everything else relax through here. Keep that top side leg long, and then start to just roll forward onto that bottom side hip. And then we roll out of that there. Now we can use some cueing from this yoga block here to, as we roll down forward, that think about we're actually actively trying to pull our knee away from that yoga block, right? It's okay if it doesn't even move an inch, but we want to actively think as we roll forward to pull our knee off that yoga block, pulling it deep into our hip. Then we breathe in this position, and then we slowly roll out of that position. And as we do that, think about pushing that yoga block or our knee into that yoga block as we do that. Really overemphasizing the movement there at the hip joint, hip capsule. Okay, so we're just opening and closing in this position. We're always keeping this top side leg long. Now, what it really looks like here is going to be a breath in through the nose as we roll forward, pulling my knee away from that yoga block. And then exhaling on the way out as we roll away. Again, pushing my knee into that yoga block. And then we do that same thing. As we breathe out, I want you to feel some tension building in your side abs as you breathe every last bit of air out. Maintain some of that tension at 2 out of 10 as we breathe back in through our nose. So maintain some of that rib closed down positioning. Right? Keep a little bit of tension there in the side abs as you breathe back in through your nose and roll forward. A great drill to start working on bottom side internal rotation and external rotation of that top side hip.
Okay, for this thoracic rotation drill, we're actually getting a lot to happen here. So in this position, we have our left foot forward and our right foot back. Our hips are at 90 degrees in either direction, and our knees are at 90 degrees. So if you can mimic this 90-90 kind of shin box position, is what it's called, then that's a great starting point. What we're getting here is external rotation of that left hip, internal rotation of that right hip. Now, this might be a little bit difficult for some of you to get into this position. If so, we can just work on, first of all, getting into this position. The more we can improve that, then the better our golf swing, right? Because we need to get into the backswing, left side external rotation, right side internal rotation. That's exactly the position we're in here, right? So we're getting that reciprocal motion where one side is doing one thing and the other side is doing the opposite. Now, where we can upgrade this and turn it into a thoracic rotation drill is we hold this ball. If we don't have a medicine ball, then just think about kind of giving yourself a big hug and creating tension in that way. And we're going to rotate towards that backside leg. So in this case, we are rotating towards that backside leg, and we're just kind of hanging out in this position. Now, what we need to do next is just own this position. So you should imagine yourself, we're going to breathe in through the nose, nice and slow. Breathe out through the mouth. Let the air kind of fall out of your mouth. Again, we're going to take a long time on these inhales and exhales. Own this position here where we're rotated towards our right side, and feel the tension start to build in your abs as you're pushing out every last bit of breath there, right? That's really important. Feel your abs start to turn on a little bit. Maintain that tension, 2 or 3 out of 10, and then breathe back in through the nose, maintaining that tension. What that does is that forces our ribs to internally rotate and kind of close down on each other. And then as we inhale, but maintain all that tension that we've built with the abs that are actually pulling those ribs in those positions, is that we keep those ribs down, and then we inhale, and we're teaching the diaphragm, we're teaching that thoracic spine, we're teaching those hips how to exist in this position as we breathe in and out, right? So that helps with the brain. It also helps with the tissue that are controlling these joints to start to get used to and actually adapt to these positions here. Okay, so we start chest facing forward, we rotate towards that backside leg, and then from there we breathe, breath in through the nose, breath out through the mouth, maintain that tension, another breath in through the nose, and then we can rotate back facing forward, and then we can rep that out. Just repeat that 4 to 5 times, kind of owning that rotation. Again, trying to get a little bit more rotation each time, but also trying to make sure we're standing up as tall as we can and standing tall as we do it. Right? So a great drill to get everything working together. We are in a perfect backswing position here, though it doesn't look like it. We have our left hip in external rotation. Our right hip is absorbing that external rotation, creating internal rotation on the right side, and then we are rotating our thoracic spine to the right. Again, try this in both directions. It's important to try to maintain some of that symmetry, especially in a sport like golf where we tend to be so asymmetric. That leads to that pain, that discomfort, that overuse, right? So as a pain prevention, kind of prehab, make sure to do it on both sides, and then the same thing on the rehab side, we do it on both sides, but just make sure that we are getting it, and especially paying attention as we rotate towards our right with our left foot forward and our right foot back. Okay, let's take a look now at shoulder external rotation. This is that backside shoulder external rotation for the backswing. Now, the range of motion we need here is critical for preventing, or at least giving us the chance to avoid or work on stopping that over-the-top swing. If we can't get that external rotation there, all the cueing and coaching in the world is just going to lead to either we have to compensate elsewhere, which means we're creating other swing characteristics we might not like, pain if we're really cranking ourselves into positions we can't get into, and just the inability to reproduce a good swing, that's for sure. So we need to have this backside shoulder external rotation up to snuff here. Let's do a couple exercises to open up that hip capsule, or sorry, that shoulder capsule, create some stability there so we can own it and control it. So 2 drills to do that DNS upper body roll, and then this FRC shoulder external rotation drill. Again, 1-2 punch of creating some mobility back into that shoulder, and then really doing a good job in both these drills to actively own and control that. These can be some pretty technical drills, might need some help, but here's some videos to help show you how to go about doing that. And then if you need any more help or really want to dive deep into this, that's something we come into clinic for, and we come up with a plan for you. Let's take a look at these drills.
Okay, for our DNS 5-month upper body roll position, what we're going to do is we're going to lay on our side. Our hips are going to be about 45 degrees with our knees at 45 degrees. We're going to stack our shoulders, so we're actually going to protract a little bit this bottom side arm so that our shoulder is directly underneath our other shoulder here. We're going to use this arm for a reference. What we're going to do here in this position is try to push our shoulder blades towards that ceiling. And what that should do as we think about doing that, it should open up some space down here, a little mouse hole through here. What I want you to do for the rest of the exercise is maintain this space. So maintain that kind of side plank position, shoulders stacked in a straight line. And then from here, we're going to let our body weight over about 5 seconds pull us forward, or let us kind of drop towards the floor as we control that motion with the bottom of our arm. So we're going to push the bottom side of our arm into the ground just enough to let our body weight overcome it, keeping the space here. And then try, and when you get used to it, kind of exaggerate how far you can actually get. You'll be surprised. Keep going. Again, always maintaining this pressure, keeping that space open. And then allow yourself to open up slightly. And then I want you to control that back in. Always pushing this into the ground. A 7 out of 10 effort. And then just controlling this as we roll over top. Again, keeping the space open through here. 5 seconds you should think on the way down, and then 5 seconds to open it back up, and just let that back of the shoulder start to burn. So all those muscles are working to control this motion of your body weight falling forward. Only stopped by you pushing this arm into the ground. Give it a shot. Okay, this is the FRC shoulder external rotation pails and rails. So for this exercise, you need a floor and something to bolster our hands up onto. What we're going to do is lay flat on the floor. You're going to start with your hands elevated close to as much what we call external rotation as you can. So my elbows here are at 90 degrees, my shoulder is at 90 degrees. This is our starting position. I have my hands about as high as I can get them. This should be good right here. If I had less range of motion, I'd have to start somewhere like here. Or if I had a ton more, I could even start way up here. But this is most comfortable for me. So I'm going to start right here. Here, the exercise is going to be 60 seconds. With your head relaxed here onto the ground, you should be pushing down into here these blocks. We're going to ramp up that pressure over 60 to 90 seconds from a 2 out of 10 to the very end. Is going to be a max effort push down into these blocks. After that, we're going to work on doing some lift-offs. So after that 60 or 90 seconds, I'm just going to raise my hands slightly, hold for a second, then let them back down. Do the same thing. A second lift-off, getting as much external rotation as we can, and letting that come back down. So here we're working on strengthening our shoulders' ability to do external rotation and internal rotation at an end range. In this case, our kind of close to our end range external rotation. We're working on strengthening, getting the body used to being in that position, letting the brain learn what it feels like to contract muscles and control this range of motion. Okay? So we do about 5 liftoffs, and then we can repeat for sets and reps like that. Go ahead, give it a shot.
Okay, last, we want to be able to rotate that spine and extend it. So we need good thoracic spine and lumbar spine mobility here. Okay, we need to have a good, healthy spine. We need to be able to rotate that trunk towards the backside in the backswing. We need it to create power. We need it to be strong there. And then same thing for the downswing. We're creating real estate or a runway for that downswing, right? We have more time to create power and speed. Very important. There's great ways for testing the spine's ability to rotate. Again, we get you in a lumbar locked position on the table. It's something we do in office. You can try to video yourself doing it. It's called the lumbar locked position. We're looking for about 45 degrees of true thoracic spine rotation here. Okay. If we're assessing the golfer, TPI screen says trunk rotation might be an issue. We put you in that lumbar locked position. We take a closer look. Yeah, rotation to that backside is definitely limited. Here are some things we can do. We're starting with like a passive way of just opening up some space into that T-spine, and then we're going to turn that into a more active version of it, where we're using those muscles to pull us into that, or we're using a little bit of help from a band to pull us into it, and then we pull out of it, and then another active version of it where we're actually integrating that into that kinematic sequence where we're getting the pelvis and hips involved and making sure that we can rotate that trunk on a stable pelvis, so we're not rotating trunk and pelvis together, right? It's a big issue in a lot of golfers where we can create that just a little bit of separation. Very important. So again, we're integrating all this mobility to create stability there too, so we can be good and strong in those positions, and then also integrating everything back into that kinematic sequence, that golf swing mechanics, golf swing timing stuff. So 3 drills coming your way here. Let's take a look.
Okay, for our kettlebell thoracic spine opener, what we're going to do is we're going to pick a side. We're going to lay with our bottom leg long and extended. Our top leg is going to come up to 90 degrees of hip flexion, and we're going to place that on an object that's going to give us feedback. So we want to make sure that this knee never leaves this foam block. Again, my hip stays at 90 degrees or higher. I take a kettlebell. I want to go top side arm towards the ceiling. This backside arm and shoulder can relax out to the side. I'm going to let this weight help me as I rotate down towards the mat. Okay? From here, we're not letting this left knee leave this block. Otherwise, we could just cheat, and we're not getting much thoracic spine rotation from this. What I want you to do is start in this position. We're going to move it into as much rotation as we can before this knee comes up. We're going to hang out here for a breath. So a breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then we're going to go back to the start. And I want you to repeat that 4 reps. We can increase the load on the kettlebell, whatever's comfortable for you, as we continue to move into more and more thoracic rotation over time. We then just switch and do the same thing on the other side. What this looks like from the side, bottom leg stays straight. This hip's getting towards 90 degrees or higher. I'm going to grab my kettlebell. We're hanging out here first. I don't let this knee come off the block as I rotate down, and we breathe in this position. Always reaching towards the ceiling. And then back up. And we're doing that for reps. Right, go ahead, give that a shot. Okay, for this banded rotation drill, what we need is a light band anchored low to the ground, and it's going to be perpendicular to us towards the side. Now next, that band is going to come underneath my front arm from here. I'm just going to be in this quadruped position here. The arm that's working is going to be the side opposite of the anchor from the band. And we're just going to bring this shoulder into some retraction, right? So I'm bringing my shoulder blade back and down towards my opposite back pocket with this right shoulder blade. And then we're just going to hold that band tight to our chest here. From here, I want you to think about being in a barrel, and we're just going to rotate around our center axis, which is our spine. And then we're going to bring it back. We're going to control that descent back. And then we're going back up again. Just working on our rotation through there. Okay, don't want to see too much of leaning to the side and opening up or things like that. Perfectly rotating around our center axis just like that. Okay, so this is a side step up with lower body rotation. Great drill for strengthening our obliques, but also gaining that lower body, upper body dissociation. So what we want to do is we can start without a weight. All we need is a surface to do a side step onto. What we're going to do is as we step onto that surface, we're going to rotate our body towards the side we're stepping. Lower body, our upper body stays oriented straight, either square or a little bit in the opposite direction of where we're heading, okay? So what this is doing is teaching our upper body to be able to stay stable as our lower body moves below us. What we can do to progress this is grab either a dumbbell, a kettlebell, or a medicine ball, and we can start light. What we're going to do is that same thing where we're going to step up, keep this ball out in front of us, okay? Making sure that as we're stepping up, we're not rotating with our lower body. It's really important for being able to learn how to be strong while dissociating our upper body from our lower body. Just like that, do both sides.
So, as you guys can see, a lot of components to that backswing. The golf swing, again, pretty much every joint is involved in some way, but we took a look at the top three kind of most important areas or joints that we find to have limitations, creating issues in that golfer's swing. If one component is missing mobility or motor control, the body will need to compensate. It's going to try to make up the difference. This leads to those inconsistent and less than impressive swings that you've noticed right there out there on the range and on the course that maybe they come out of nowhere. Maybe you've made some changes to your swing and it starts to look better and then it just never holds. Again, that's because we are trying to force these positions. We have underlying issues that are not letting us hold on to these changes or be consistent with them, right? Not to mention our chances of injury go way up when we are golfing, trying to get in these positions when we don't have the underlying ability, biomechanics, right, mobility to get there and effectively achieve those positions. We are asking the body to do more in certain joints. An example is that hip internal rotation. Say you're able to squeeze as much out of that hip as you can, or what's happening is that you're getting locked up in that hip, you're asking way more from the lumbar spine. Maybe you can't even tell the difference in the backswing. You're getting to that spot you need to get to, but it's coming so much more from that low back than it should. Over time, boom, we have issues in that low back. Now you can't swing at all, right? So we had a hip problem that we never identified. Now we're dealing with back pain. Maybe if you go to a practitioner and they deal with that back pain, they make it feel better, but they didn't address the hip, the kind of asymptomatic cause of the whole issue. What we do is we make sure we address that underlying cause. If you don't get these things taken care of, again, whether it's performance, you're coming in with pain that they're not getting looked at, then these problems be recurring. Your performance will never really get better. Again, we want to open up all these areas that need to be opened up and make sure that everything is working together. We try to integrate everything back together, back to that golf swing. Okay? So that is everything that's needed in the backswing. Some practical take-home things you can try to address the top three areas. Again, it's limited. There's so much more we can do. There's so much more that we usually do. But here are some good examples to kind of get things started. Hope you guys found it helpful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You can call, text the number 585-478-4379, email contact@integratedrpc.com, or go onto the website, check out the other articles on the blog that have been archived. Sign up for the newsletter if you aren't already to get it in word form, and then there's places to reach out for me right there on the website as well. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. Bye.